really weird, like having headphones in and hearing my voice muffled, but otherwise I think I'd be getting your, so.
I have headphones, but I won't think I need them. This will work.
Yeah.
You hear me well?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Alright, so. Alright, well, hello and welcome to Experiencing the Spirituals, very first video interview. And I want to welcome you, thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. And I also want to welcome Mr. Paul Hederman. Little background. A year ago, I had the privilege of hearing Paul speak in a meeting in a small, about 30 people or so, 30 to 40 people, and at the time it was, I don't know if I ever told you this, Paul, but I had this friend who was, for 2 weeks before you came to Minneapolis, he was saying, hey, I just found this website, Zen Bitch Slap, and you have to look this guy up on YouTube, and he was talking about you a lot, and he had no idea that you were coming into town, and I didn't look it up at the time. It just didn't register, but and then at the time I was starting the Course in Miracles, and it just I walked into that room, and you mentioned it immediately when you talked, because there was somebody who opened, but the energy in that room was just palpable. It was really, really intense, and what I heard was exactly what inside seemed like I needed to hear. It's that internal resonator, just like that tuning fork just picked up on what you were talking about, and because I had tried the just bare essential getting by AA, and this is within the context of 12-step program. And I had sort of limited myself spiritually for a little bit, and it was at a time when I was having these experiences and opening up to different ideas and reading different books, and I was looking for something, and it really seemed like your message put it together very simply, and more than just hearing your message, because for the past year I've been subscribed to your podcast. I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel, and so you always talk about repetition, and it has helped a lot. But what was most powerful for me in that night was simply meeting you, because I forget who it was that said, I think Henry David Thoreau, or one of those, Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of those people said, who you are speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say. And it was just the very presence that you sort of brought in to this room, and that I felt in talking with you afterwards, that was the most powerful part of the message, and I took that night. I just took, right after that, I just took this walk down to the river, and it was just like, what? And it was great. And so I want to thank you not only for joining me tonight for this, but also for the impact that you and your invitation has had over the past year, and that's what I think is going to make this interview interesting. Is this is not like I just listened to some of your podcasts a few days ago, and then now I have these questions about the concepts. I've had some some experience with what you're talking about, and that's where it has come alive, is in the experience of not the knowing and conceptualizing of what you're talking about. So that being said, would you like to say what it is that you are talking about? Because some people may just a brief sort of introduction to what is Zen Bitch Slap, and what have you been talking about for how many years is it?
19 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, Zen Bitch Slap is just a website that offers the talks that we do. We do usually 3 talks a week, and so we offer the talks to be downloaded so that people can listen if they like, and then see what happens. Yeah. They're just in the frame of AA, of recovery. It's sort of changing the focus on what is called the problem. Instead of taking it to be a mental activity called obsession with self, I believe it's an identification as a self, which is an act. There is no finish line. You don't become a self, but you appear to be one in your head over and over and over again. Because so I call it selfing. So this idea of selfing, its product is a sense of being a self. It can't create it, but it can make it. So it makes it, and it keeps making it because it never becomes it, so it has to keep making it. So that's what I call the selfing. So the selfing is a mental process that implies or points to a noun, that there's someone that's seeing, there's someone that's thinking, there's someone that's doing, there's someone that's having. And I like to put that into question and then see what happens here. So that's what the website is. And the message, basically I frame it in recovery because I'm from recovery, and because my take on it is that you can describe the problem quite well, but you can't describe what you are. But you can definitely describe what you're not. Because what I am is the seeing of what I'm not, really. Yeah? So I'm the seeing of what I'm not. Yeah. So that's the point of the whole thing. Yeah.
That seems like a good package of.
Well, let's go somewhere, Jason. The thing. See, the obsession with self is an activity that reinforces the identification as self. Yes. So it's sort of like it has a purpose. So to deal with that, to try to get out of the obsession with self, you could actually frame that as an obsession with self. Yeah. So you can't get out of it. Self can't get out of self. That's the dilemma, the seeming dilemma. Because if you're not a self, then there's no need to get out of it. Yeah. That's the beauty of it. When you're identified as a self, you want to get out of self. That's the main imperative of an addict, is to get out of self. They're trying to get some relief from an irritability, restlessness, and discontent. But the point is, what's getting the relief is the problem, in a sense. Yeah. So whatever relief comes, the problem identifies as the one that has that relief, which causes it not to be that relieving. Yes.
Yeah, and it keeps it going and going.
Yes.
And going, and that finish line that you mentioned is it's the carrot, carrot on a stick, just right in front. And I know it's kept me, because I'm in recovery as well, as you know, and that's kind of what brought us together in that context. And just for other viewers, though, this Paul has talked a lot about this, and I believe this firmly, is that we're all recovering from something. And ultimately, and alcoholism and addiction are extreme examples, and I'm really quoting Paul on this, or paraphrasing, that it's that they're extreme examples of this identification as a self. And but so if you're listening to this and you've never never picked up a substance, never had any experience with any kind of addictive. Well, I would question that somebody hasn't had any experience with some kind of addictive behavior. But the message, I just want to establish that the relevance. This is not exclusive to 12-step recovery. And it actually goes quite beyond that. But I'm sure we're going to be referencing it a lot, and I actually really would like to, because it's an interesting thing to have such a different take and a different perspective in the fellowship, and I recently I've felt very alone for the past year or so, entertaining the idea that it's not that I'm obsessing about self and thinking about self. It's the fact that I'm convinced that in the validity of Jason in this process, I'm Jasoning is kind of the verb that for me, and the book and the fellowship kind of talk about getting relief from selfishness, and it very never addresses the issue of self-identity, and it's just, I spent the first 2 years of my recovery. It's been 3.5 years now. And I spent the first 2 years of my recovery with following that carrot, and always feeling like, I didn't do my nightly inventory, and what's going to happen, and I must not be spiritual today, and I'm not doing this and doing that right. So then I devise these plans of how I'm going to get spiritual, and then I get that, and then I may get a little bit of relief or some sort of sense of well-being, and then I'm back to square one. Probably, it could be a week later, it could be within 5 minutes. Something happens, and what you are introducing, and you've introduced for me, is the idea that there's and I was listening to one of your more recent podcasts, and it sort of it talks about an issue that I had questioned for a little bit, but basically the freedom from having to find freedom. As if it's some distant thing that I have to have all the right ingredients for. Does that kind of click, or?
Yeah, in a sense, it's the freedom from the need to be liberated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. The thing with the selfing is just promotes a sense of being a fixed reference, like that something is happening to me, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the product of the selfing. It isn't really what's going on, but it's who it's going on to. That's where the selfing's product really shows up. So this is not an experience. See, it's not an experience. It's more, if you want to use the word state, it's more a state of mind. It's not an experience, because to have an experience, there's got to be a someone to have the experience. So experiences occur, but the whole message is that there's no one having any experiences. And that's a state of mind. The sense of that there's no one having the experiences, a real sense of that. The mental process is implying there's someone having the experience, but the sense of it is that there is no one having the experience. That's the state of mind. Yeah, that's the freedom from selfing, in a way. When you have to see the main movement of selfing is to claim. Yes? So the idea of a body isn't seen as a body, it's given the name my body. Yes? Time is given the name my time. Money is my money. Relationships are my relationships. So the meaning changes incredibly. Let's say you have money, and let's say money has an objective result here. And let's say if I had $1 million, that would result in me probably living more comfortably for a year in where I live, let's say, yes? And you would imagine that if this was an objective place, that $1 million would have an objective effect on me, yeah? But let's just say that money isn't seen as money, but it's seen as my money. And in the conditioning that makes what I call Paul up, my money is that I'm never going to have enough money. Yeah? There's a belief in there. There's an idea in there. So every time money shows up in life, or I'm in relation with it seemingly in life, it's seen as my money. And so that belief about money is injected into that topic, money. Yeah? So I may not feel comfortable no matter how much money I have, because there's maybe a belief up there that I'm never going to have enough. Yeah? This is what happens. This is all brought to you by an identification as self, because how it moves and affects and uses everything as a screen for it to project its little ideas on is that it claims things. Yeah? It claims the idea of thoughts as I'm the thinker of it. And it's an incredible leap, because you and I can't even shit when we want to. Really. Yeah? I've been on trains in India where the last thing I wanted to do was take a shit on that train, but I had to take a shit. I mean, I had incredible dysentery. Yes? But here we are, we can't even stop shitting or start shitting when we want, but we actually live under the sense that I'm the thinker of these thoughts, that I can't see, that I can't weigh, I can't grab them, I don't know where they're stored, yet somehow I'm the claimer of it, I'm the doer of that. Yeah? So let's just say during the day, I spoke about this last night, and let's just say let's say I'm at my house, I'm in my life, and every day I get 350 books shipped to me. Yeah, and as soon as the books show up, I call them my books. Now I have to have a lot of room to store those books. Yes. And the next day, 350 more books come. And the next day, 350 more books come. And every time a book shows up, I think it's my book. Yeah? So I have a lot. I got to store it. I'm constantly engaged in what am I going to do with all of my books. Yeah? This is similar to thoughts. They say you have 70,000 thoughts a day, the brain. Let's just say you're aware of 3,000 of them. If there's a relationship as being the thinker of those thoughts, every one of those are yours. What the hell is your mind going to do with those thoughts?
It's a lot to manage.
It's got to store. It's got to put it somewhere. And if it can't find any room for it, it's got to dump it on someone else. Yes? And so on and so forth. So with life seemingly coming at us and putting us in a position of being the processor of it, what we're relying on to process life is unreliable. Yeah? So what does it do? It has to store it. It has to blame others. It has to dump it on people. It has to disassociate. It has to forget. It has to get high, because it's got in its life. It's claimed every feeling as my feeling. Every thought. I thought every one of these thoughts. I've done everything I think I've done. I've omitted things I shouldn't have omitted. I've committed tons of things. All of this is like weight. All of this is causing an incredible claustrophobic state and a lot of traveling heavy here. Yes? It's all brought to us by that identification as self. If you see a thought, it's totally different than when you see a thought and it's called my thought. Yeah? The seeing is the exact same. There's awareness seeing a thought. Yes? Awareness is seeing a thought. The mental process rises up and claims the thought. I'm the seer of the thought. And if you ask who is that I, it says me. It's a body. Yeah? So this is the thinker of those thoughts. These thoughts are my thoughts. This is bondage to self. This is the act of slavery or bondage to self. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I may interject, I found out recently that the body and all of its cells reproduce and are replaced every 7 years or so.
Yeah.
And so literally, what's appearing to you now is not what was 7 years ago.
No.
And yet I still am completely, and still have the tendency to have just.
But see, the thing is that it's not you, Jason, that has that tendency. That's the good news. It's not about getting over the tendency. It's when the tendency is tendencying, so to speak. There's a realization there's no you that has the tendency. That's the freedom. It's not, the mental process doesn't chill out. It may not. But the thing is, you're not engaged with it because you're not identified as the one who's having that process. Or that process is I'm the one that process is driving crazy. You're not, neither of those. You're not located. Yes? That's the freedom. It's not like my head never utters a thought and makes up a story. It's making up stories all day. But I'm not an engaged reader of the stories because it's not about me. See? That's
so
where
you're not interested.
I'm not interested in it.
Yeah.
No, your interest and attention is rooted in what you think you are or what you feel you are. If you don't know what you feel you are, you really can never know what you feel you are, that frees up your attention and interest to be open and alert because it's in a state of I don't know now. It's not in a state of slavery to an idea of being Paul. It's open up to find out about life because it doesn't know what it is. Yeah, yeah, it's very beautiful.
It is, and it one kind of thing I would like to back up with is what is this self that we're talking about? And I again paraphrase. Have used the term separate, long-lasting, individual entity, and you've talked about it a little bit. But what creates this sense of self?
This mental process does. A mental process. It doesn't create it; it makes it. Because to create something, it would be so. It's not so. So it makes up. It implies. It infers. It produces a sense of being a self. But there's no sense that there's no completion in that sense in actually being a self. There's just a sense of being a self. Yeah? Yes. So the mental process has to constantly be selfing because it's almost like if you see a helicopter propeller. If you watch it and it's moving so fast, it almost looks like it's not moving. So the selfing is going on, and in the reflective nature of the mind, it reflects it as a thing. It almost sees it as a thing, Paul, a body, and that's the lock or the identification. Yeah.
And we're talking about like having the awareness of thoughts and.
Well, you are the awareness. You are that. You don't have the awareness. You are the awareness. Yes.
Very, very, very good.
Thinking you have awareness is selfing. That's the feeling of selfing. See, the language is totally promotes. It's like a trance setter. When thoughts are put into this language, they enslave us to the idea of being a something. Yeah. They don't enslave us, but they enslave, let's say, mind. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we can't get out of the language. It's all right. Yeah. But just understand it.
Yeah, we're a little limited here. There's a beautiful story about that I'm sure you've heard, but the what Lao Tzu wrote about the Chinese Taoist saying that those who know do not speak, those who speak do not know. And there's a story about how the disciples of the Buddha asked him to explain that. And he said, how many of you know the smell of a rose? and they all raised their hands or all indicated that they knew what a rose smelled like, or they had a
memory,
awareness of the what a rose smelled like. And then he said, "Put that in words." And there was just silence, because, and that's what I find really difficult with this kind of stuff is putting it in words, because words are in language seem to be the device or a mechanism with the allows the selfing to operate.
Yeah, that's why, in a way, I'd like to just describe and use words for about what we're not. To me, it's sort of like, let's just say, if the ocean implies our nature, our true nature, and then there's a sense of a wave, and there's an identification as the wave. Now the wave has a desire to know the ocean, yeah? So it's busily trying to have experience of the ocean, it's reading about the ocean, it's diving into the ocean, and this and that. And yet, the real gem of the ocean is inherently the wave's nature. But as a wave, it can never get that gem. It can feel wet, but it will be an experience backed up with dry. Yeah? Things will come and go. But when it recognizes it's not a wave, that's the ocean. It's very immediate, yeah?
Yes.
So this way, in a sense, the talking is never about what we are. It's always about what I'm not, yeah? Because what I'm not can be described. Because I'm not that, yes? What I am, I cannot be described. So it can be clumsily pointed at, but I rather point at what we're not. Because to me, it's the seeing of what I'm not is what I actually am. That seeing of what I'm not is what I am. Yeah? I'm not a seer. It's just seeing. I'm not a seer. There's nothing behind the seeing. There's no seer. There's no noun, if you want to put it that way. There's just this verb of seeing. Yeah? There's no noun. There's no authentic self. There's no authentic God. There's no authentic someone doing everything. Yeah, there's just doing. Yeah? There's just having and doing and this and that. And there's no beginning or end to it, it seems like. There's a beginning and end to our little storyline as a body, but I don't know if there's a beginning and end to this, this verb of just onness, let's say. Yeah.
Which is right now, happening right now.
Well, there's no, obviously, right now, every moment, no matter how much you cut up now into time, it's always now, every piece.
Yeah, it is.
Yes? Yeah. Every piece is always now. It's almost like a holograph. If you break like a hologram or something into millions of pieces, every piece has the whole of it. Yeah? It reflects the whole. That's all mind is doing. Conditional mind is trying to break up a wholeness and make it into millions of different pieces with different degrees and time and space. But in fact, every moment reflects that all the time now, or the no time now. Yes? Yeah.
Yes.
In other words, the timeless is invested in every moment that we call time. The timeless is invested in it because all there is the timeless. Yeah? This is a mental procedure, like a mental surgery. We're trying to cut up nothing and make it something all day. Yeah.
and then we miss the reality.
Yeah, because
really there.
No matter how focused you are on something, it's still something. It clouds your ability to see nothing, because seeing nothing is, to me, the state of mind. The conditional state of mind we seem to be representing is a looking at some things. Yeah, we're looking at some things. We're looking for something, but the seeing nothing is the primordial state. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to use these terms. But I would say it's the context to the content. The content of the conditional mind is I'm looking for something, yeah? Or I don't want to look at something. It's just either way, dualistic. Two sides of the same coin. Yes. So it's just like, flipping pancakes all day. But the fact is, there's the seeing nothing, which is in every moment of looking for something, is the seeing nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ever present.
Yes, that's exactly.
Always underneath the surface.
That's why we don't notice it, because it's ever present.
Yeah. There's recent. Again, language is limited here, so excuse me as I try to express this. But I've had the best way that I've come to accept this invitation and this idea is through just watching and observing and asking questions, like you talk about, and that takes a certain level of awareness, which I am, and so that but let's say we're talking about a self, just to make things a little simpler. There's a sense of awareness and consciousness that seems to be lacking in most people, to where the very idea that they can observe a thought and see it as a separate entity from them is just not there, and that's the impression that I get.
Well,
from a lot of people.
It's there, I'd say, but there's just no interest in it. Yeah, the potential's there, but there's no interest. The interest is being the one who's seeing, or the one who's thinking, or the one who's having. The mind's interested in that. Yeah. Its attention's there, and it's interested in that. That's the way it is at that time. But the potential is available, yeah.
Absolutely.
But the potential's not manifesting here, as it's not translating here in this story of being people, because I would say lack of interest, basically. Their interest is caught up in being a self, let's say, or the interest is. And it's doing quite a good job illuminating life and describing life and setting up the lighted stage for life to appear to be happening to you. Yeah, that's the interest.
And that's why I think, when I was first getting sober, I would hear people say I'm a grateful alcoholic, grateful addict, and I would just not understand how somebody could be grateful for all the wreckage and stuff that comes with that. But the blessing, it was such a blessing to have had, to reach such a point of desperation and just being so unable to go on the way I was going, that I had this willingness to develop a new interest for some, and a new awareness of that there is this problem going on. Henry David Thoreau said that most men live their lives in quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still in them. And there's a lot of unconsciousness, I believe, and the what has illuminated the I am, the amness, the awareness that I have now can honestly say I believe myself to be. 9 months ago, I was intellectualizing your message. I was hearing it with sheep ears, to reference one of your videos. There's been experiences where there's been times of sitting and being still and just watching what we're talking about, we are not. And as I watched that more and more and just see that happen, and then I'm aware of this body and all these sensations that are going on at any different moment, and that's when what we're talking about, those moments are when it's clear that this invitation is true for me. That's what made it valid. Is going. I guess I would call it having some retreat from what I am not, and being the awareness. Like, I love the quote, "Knowing God means being God. It is not relative knowledge." Is Ramana Maharshi?
Yes.
Yep.
Beautiful.
And beautiful, and that's exactly what I mean. You can't put words to it, but it's in the mind. The mind, as I have this, that as well as the awareness is there and present and illuminated. The mind is still going. It's not like the mind stops, but there's this immunity to it. It's just going, and there's no effect on the that state of being. That and once I've had several very profound states of being like that, and well, I there have been that awareness has been made clear in a way that I can't describe, and just having the even coming from a self, knowing that that's there, changes the way everything is viewed here, and the way everything is experienced, because that's the proof is in the pudding, and it's like once something like that happens, it's hard to undo that sort of
impression. Yes.
Yeah.
It makes an impression.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
And of course, there to this day, there's many lapses back into the selfing, and but for the most part, it's the past year has been a bitch slap. Just one big bitch slap across the face for various reasons, and it's the kind of losing what I was going to say.
The bitch slap hurt then.
Yeah. The bitch slap hurt. Woke me up a little bit. Woke.
Yeah.
Well, it shook what I was not a little bit, and brought that illuminated that awareness, brought that awareness up a little bit, and so now there's just, as I go through day to day, nothing is really that different, but there is I am getting that sense of traveling lighter, and it's not this mystical, magical kind of experience. Really, it's just an It's almost like an assurance. It's just a
knowing.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
and that it's been incredible, and it's been a great blessing. And what sealed the deal for me ultimately was I was just kind of a personal thing. It was engaged for a year, and you knew her. You talked to her last summer, and out of nowhere, just she ended it, and that was one of the greatest gifts that I've ever experienced. At the time, in those few days, I couldn't admit that, but because it shattered everything that the selfing had had conceived, and it just showed that it was so impermanent and insubstantial, and that at any moment everything is so transient. So so this thing that thinks it's a solid entity, and is with its little plans and its concepts and ideas and judgments, it's having my world just turned upside down and experiencing pain as a result of that. That was the slap of all slaps. And it was very, very awakening. I just instantly thought of the first, like, in a week later, like, start thinking the noble truths, and
Yeah.
and
I'm sure you did.
So nothing is, again, I feel what I've seen in a lot of your interviews is people who are just, like, for the first time kind of like trying to see what you're all about. And I'm telling you that it's in the viewers that it's taken some entertaining, some time, and because it's a big, it goes against everything that I am conditioned and raised to believe, and I believe this self is this. If I ask about my identity as a self, it's rooted in, I was named by somebody else. Jason was given a name. Jason was put in an environment, put in a school, given certain messages growing up about him, me, and the self, and about the world, and about the other separate entities and selves that are in this world, and what came from that was this whole, just this system and mechanism that just really solidified it. And you talk about how the golden years were for you were when you were between 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Is that the right age? And it's just Jesus himself quoted and taught and emphasized that the most worthy of entering the kingdom of God, and I wouldn't say that there's a separate gated kingdom. And
the thing is, children, there's no entering the kingdom of heaven for children. They don't know of any other place unless they're having an abusive situation or anything.
Yeah.
So when you're a resident of heaven, you don't know you're a resident of heaven. It's when you're in hell, seemingly in hell, then you think you'd like to be a resident in heaven.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thus,
that's sort of how it happens when the entertaining, let's say, translates here. And so instead of having a few moments of that forever moment, in time, it becomes a sort of a state, because the obviousness of it is that it's always so. Yeah? So that's not just a possibility, that's what it is. So, but the mind in this translation in time and this place can start entertaining that it's always so. So it has, quote unquote, more moments of that always so moment. Yeah? That's how it translates here at times for people. So it seems like it deepens and grows while they're entertaining it. Yes? Because more moments, there's that assurity that there's only that moment.
Yes.
That moment is now overriding the differences and the peculiarities of this moment in time. Yeah, that moment overriding all the degrees of meaning and all this that are being shuffled and dealt to this moment in time. So what's always so starts having a very strong influence in all the different moments that seem to be so. Yeah.
I like what you said about it. It leaves an impression. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Once that contact, which is always present, it's just I guess I don't know how to describe it, but basically I just observed. I just did a lot of observing and a lot of looking and a lot of investigating about what was going on. And I just found out that it was just there was nothing really going on, and messages from that are conditioned from a culture or from a family or whatever, and so it was just in observing and investigating is. What illuminated this thing. Anybody who's hearing this first may have no experience with meditation or mindfulness or anything of that nature. It seems like just incomprehensible.
I've lost you.